What happened here, if you missed it, and it was last week, didn't have a chance to talk about it because I wasn't here. Reggie Stubblefield commits to K-State out of the transfer portal from Prairie View A&M. Now, he had flaunted stats and accolades on his social media accounts that were inaccurate. For instance, he claimed he was an FCS All-American. That was not true. It looks like at best, he may have been All-Conference. Even that is shaky and hard to completely verify. His statistics are very hard to verify. Prairie View A&M did not do a very good job of chronicling that, so he had fudged a lot of the numbers. It looks like he blocked 2 kicks, but he had said 8. He had mentioned 45 TFLs, tackles for loss. That does not appear to be correct, but there's all sorts of wacky stuff going on. His name is spelled differently, like twice, 2 different places spelled differently in the same stat sheet, according to Prairie View A&M. So it's very difficult to discern what exactly the truth is here, and it would appear that Stubblefield took advantage of that to try and soup up his stats and numbers. So, for a large portion of people, when they find this out, it turns into like, what? How could the coaching staff be so dumb? I'm telling you, they've done more homework than just simply looking at the guy's social media profile, okay? But that doesn't mean that there's not still potentially an issue here. Because the whole offseason has been about culture. We need to fix the culture. The other transfers, admittedly, seem to be spot on in terms of, Eric Munoz was like all culture. This is the grinder that came up. He had to transfer 4 different times up levels as a walk-on before he finally got to Utah State and earned a scholarship, and now he's coming here to K-State. That is the grinder guy. Cade Warner from Nebraska. Kurt Warner, the guy that's going to sack groceries and then turn into an NFL superstar. That guy's son, locker room guy at Nebraska. They did that all offseason with all of the transfers, and now here's a kid who's lying about his stats, lying about who he is, but I guess supposedly trying to catfish people in a way, right? Mitch compared it earlier to the dating profile. You're 5. Say me, I'm 5'9". If I were to go on there and say I'm 6'2", that's basically what was happening. Is that the right guy to add to the mix when you've already had all these locker room concerns? That question, I don't feel like I know enough to completely answer. And that's why I would say it's not a total deal breaker to me on this kid. Because I don't know. I don't know what the background check would reveal about who he is as a person. I think a lot of this is he's being a early 20-year-old college athlete. They like to promote themselves. They like to exaggerate a little bit. They like to milk every last little bit out of everything that you can get on social media. If it's different offers that you're getting, you see it all the time. You don't need me to explain to you what it's like being an athlete on social media these days. I think you combine that with a kid who is clearly at a place where it's Prairie View A&M, nothing against Prairie View, but they were not doing a good job of marketing him or chronicling anything on the team. And I think he looked at it as, hey, I've got 1 year left. I'm seeing all these kids in the portal now jumping from FCS to FBS and having a lot of success. I want to get my piece of that pie. So I've got to go try and market myself. And yes, does that get into, hey, I'm doing it in a sketchy way? Absolutely. Yes, that is very sketchy. It is. But I think based on the environment and where he came from, there's enough benefit of the doubt there for me to be like, all right, if the coaching staff did their homework, which I assume and will give them credit for doing, there has to be something there that makes them feel better about this than just what it totally appears like on the surface. You can tell by the tone of my voice that I'm granting that benefit of the doubt somewhat begrudgingly, because here's what we also know. Yes, there were culture issues this past year, and it was after the Iowa State game that Kleiman first mentioned that. And a lot of it stemmed from one guy. And I'm not here to just totally trash one player, but especially if you are somebody that really does follow this, it's pretty easy to tell what former safety, who has since transferred, was what a lot of people would tell you a big part of the issue. So one bad apple can poison the well. we've really seen it happen if you would believe what's been said behind closed doors about what went on. So, yes, this does perk up my ears and be like, okay, you're taking this kid who is likely just going to be depth in the secondary. Like, I don't think this is the magical starting nickel. I think this is, hey, we're in on a couple of kids that we want to be our starting nickel, the kid at Tulsa, the kid at Southeast Missouri. But we need to make sure that we have something else going on here for some depth. I mean, what happens if TJ Smith coming back from his knee injury, if something goes wrong there? Like, we just need a CYA move. Cover your you-know-what. We need somebody else in there. Is that the kid that's worth this kind of a risk? I mean, I think it shows the desperation on both sides. Of Stubblefield to get somewhere bigger, of K-State to just make sure that they have somebody else in the secondary. So there are some concessions being made. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. But if it happens again, if this happens again, and we're sitting here talking about 10 transfers next year in the middle of the year, then yeah, now it's like, okay, this turned into something bigger, and this is a mistake that you can't, something needs to change. You can't be making that mistake. You can't do the culture overhaul again. You're not supposed to get that many chances to do it. Bruce Weber is an extreme rarity in the fact that he has basically had 2 chances to do that. Lost the culture once, blew it up. Won another Big 12 championship, lost the culture again, blew it up. That doesn't happen often, that a coach gets that opportunity to. And I could be a whole nother conversation about how many opportunities Kleiman should or would get. A big part of that is the contract and how tethered K-State is to him for a while. But from a standpoint of, like, should you be happy about what's going on with the program? If this happens again and this kid really is a problem, then yeah, absolutely. You can definitely raise hell about that.
I'm okay with it not being a deal breaker for now, but quite honestly, I don't like this. I really don't like this, and it's not because of what's happening right now, because I get the temporary fill this spot because it's just 1 year of eligibility. But I don't like what it could lead to, as in being taken advantage of. I don't think this will be a trend. I think this is a one-time deal, because not often does a student-athlete just go out there and lie about his stats to see if he can get picked up by somebody. I think that's kind of a snake situation, and I'm not saying that's exactly what he did. I don't know this full story. I don't know if he's just a plain liar or there was he knows how many kicks he's blocked. He knows how many blocked field goals he has, blocked punts. That's something that just sticks in your head. That's a number you can easily add up and keep in your noggin for forever.
Well, and see, let me just interject here. Yes, you are absolutely correct about that. Like, that's the one that's hard to get over. If you're going to tell me throughout your career you had 45 TFLs, and like I said, it is not well documented on the Prairie View site. Like, okay, and that's probably not a number that you would remember specifically. But the problem is, yeah, when you go eight block kicks, and then you go FCS All-American, like, that is something that's the All-American part pretty easily checked. And the 8 block kicks, it's like such an outrageous number that it also, to me, indicates like you don't totally know what you're doing here, because that's a number that someone will check. 8 block kicks? 8. If you left it at 3 or 4, I mean, like, maybe not. But 8, like that's a number that someone's going to go check out.
Yeah, the 8 block kicks, that's where it, to me, seems like a pretty shady situation. Like, what else is he not afraid to lie about? You know, I mean, this isn't a Pringles can that lies about how many calories there is in a serving. This is a student athlete that's looking to be a Division I and FBS college football athlete, but he only has his stats and his film to base off. The lie can't go too far before it gets figured out. And the K-State fan base, they figured it out. Now, I will say where the coaches, yes, you're right. There's no doubt they did their homework. They know what kind of numbers he has.
Well, I'm sure they watched film. Like, I just, that's the thing. I would not get caught up in the numbers. Like, I'm sure they've watched film of him. So
there's got to be something they like about him to where, and to use the dating app analogy again, this is not a long-term relationship. This is at the most. This is a short-term deal. This is a 1-year deal. They're going to break up soon anyway. There's no building a relationship here. This is, like you mentioned, they need a guy, and hopefully it's a little bit more than just needing a guy and filling a spot. But this is a short-term plan.
And again, I would say, well, I understand why your concern has been raised here, and I even supplemented some of your concern. Kids are kind of built like this right now. And it's it's getting worse. I was just having a conversation with some friends last night on a Zoom, some of my old buddies, and we were all going around. I was like, we've never sounded older, sitting here at 31 about the perils of social media, and I was actually kind of being like the, man, this is all terrible for us guy, like these damn kids and their social media, but it is true. It is the world. Kids want to do everything they can to hype themselves up, create extra attention. Some of it is very silly and selfish and all of these things. So that's kind of the environment right now, and he's coming from a place where I could just see how you would be desperate to get out of it, desperate to do what you see other kids doing. Nobody's been marketing you, and you see a little bit of wiggle room there because nobody's been marketing you at all. And if the coaches look at that and they talk to people like, hey, he's actually a good kid, really was just trying to do what he could to get out of his situation and utilized what he had at his disposal, which is trying to use your social media to market yourself, and they could view it as more harmless. And it's, hey, that's fine. If that's, I would imagine where they got to with it, if that's where they got to with it and they're still fine with it, you get the benefit of the doubt for now, but I don't even know if this is baseball. Like, 3 strikes, borderline. This would be a second strike in doing something like this and having it tank. If it does, you're not going to get a ton more of those before people just really start to have this become a major red flag for you. So I will be monitoring this. I will definitely be monitoring this. My best guess is that by the end of the year, he'll play sparingly. It won't have been much of an issue, and we'll all kind of forget about it. But right now in the offseason, there's nothing else going on, and I keep bringing this up. I brought it up in the context of the Stanford game. Like, we haven't seen the team win a damn game since October 24th or anything really exciting happen. It's just very easy to let your mind drift to the negative side of this and the concern side of this.